They say nothing ever really changes in small neighborhoods like mine, until something does. And for me, that shift began the day I left my bathroom door slightly open. I had lived in this duplex for almost 2 years. Quiet street, trimmed lawns, occasional barbecue smells wafting through the air on weekends. Peaceful. Predictable. I liked it that way. I kept to myself mostly, the kind of guy who'd rather read a book on the porch than go out drinking. My routine was simple: morning jogs, freelance graphic design, evenings watching documentaries with too much popcorn and too little company. Then he moved in next door. We didn't become friends overnight. He was loud, chaotic, impossible to miss. Thumping car doors, music that bled through walls, laughing in the driveway with his buddies. At first, I assumed he was just passing through, a temporary tenant. But he stayed, and something about him started to pull at the edges of my world. I noticed things I shouldn't have, like the way his white t-shirts clung to him after washing his car, or how he'd nod at me across the lawn, mouth full of chips, and flash a grin like we were in on some joke I didn't understand yet. I told myself I was imagining it, misreading his friendliness for something more. After all, he talked about girls, dated often, lived the kind of life that didn't seem to have space for someone like me. Still, we got closer. Started with shared tools. He'd borrow my drill, I'd use his wrench. Then came the beers on the back steps, casual jokes, conversations that stretched past midnight. He talked about his job, construction projects, long commutes, how he hated cold showers. I listened, laughed too hard at his dumb impressions, and tried to keep my heart from racing when he sat just a little too close. Then came the project. The landlord wanted to retile the shared laundry room and asked if we'd be willing to prep the space over the weekend. Just a bit of lifting, cleaning, maybe scraping the old caulking. He agreed. I said yes too fast. That Saturday, we worked side by side. He wore a tank top that showed more skin than my self-control was ready for. We joked about the broken floor tiles like two kids avoiding homework. But every time he leaned over, every time he wiped sweat from his brow and looked at me with that easy smile, I felt something tipping inside me. Later that evening, I headed in for a quick shower. My skin was sticky with dust and heat, my head full of thoughts I didn't know where to put. I usually locked the door. That day I didn't, and that's where everything really started. The day he moved in, I told myself I wouldn't get involved. He wasn't my type. Not just because he was straight, or so I assumed, but because guys like him had always been part of the background noise of my life. Too loud, too confident, too casually magnetic. The kind of man who left a trail of laughter behind him and never noticed the quiet ones who watched from the edge. But he noticed me. It started with the mailbox. Mine had jammed again. I was crouched there, trying to fish out a bill with a coat hanger, when he walked up with a six-pack under one arm and asked, "You breaking in or just flirting with the postman?" I laughed. It slipped out before I could help it. From there, things just unfolded. Slowly, naturally. He'd wave from his porch whenever I came back from a jog. Toss me a cold bottle of water over the fence like it was some kind of reward. He'd knock on my door at 9 p.m. just to ask if I had garlic powder or duct tape or some other unnecessary thing he could have bought himself. I knew it was an excuse. He never tried to hide that. We weren't exactly opposites, but we were different in all the ways that kept things interesting. He was physical, always moving, fixing something, lifting something, throwing a football against the wall like a kid with too much energy. I was quieter, more thoughtful, the one who noticed when he wore the same hoodie 3 days in a row, or when he got quiet after certain phone calls. Eventually, we started hanging out by default. Weekends meant cheap pizza, movies on his couch, sarcastic commentary layered over action scenes. He'd nudge me in the ribs when I got too serious about a plot hole, and I'd tease him about his terrible taste in snacks. There was an ease to it, like we'd skipped years of awkward friendship building and landed in that rare space where people just fit. But even then, I was careful. I never let myself read too much into the way his knee touched mine and didn't move, or how he'd hold eye contact for just a second too long before looking away with a smile that always made my chest feel too tight. I told myself it was just him, that he was like that with everyone. Still, something kept pulling me in. One weekend, he invited me to help him clean out the garage. It turned into a full-day event, sorting tools, lifting boxes, rearranging the shelves. We found a beat-up camping tent buried behind an old dresser. He grinned and said, "Ever go camping?" I shrugged. "Once, in high school. Froze my ass off and swore never again." He laughed. "You just didn't do it right. We should fix that." 2 weeks later, we did. It was just a short trip, an overnighter near the river, not far from the city. He said it would be fun, a chance to disconnect. I agreed, not because I loved the outdoors, but because I couldn't say no to the idea of spending a night under the stars with him. We packed light, 1 tent, 2 sleeping bags, a cooler of snacks. I brought an extra hoodie just in case. He brought marshmallows and a terrible Bluetooth speaker. By nightfall, we had a small fire going. He insisted on telling ghost stories like we were 10 years old. I couldn't stop smiling, even when the punchlines were bad. He was sprawled out in the grass beside me, arm behind his head, eyes up at the stars. There was something about seeing him that still, that quiet, that caught me off guard. "Ever think about leaving all this behind?" he asked suddenly. I turned to him. "Leaving what?" "City, work, noise, all of it." His voice was softer than usual. I wanted to ask what brought the question on, but he didn't offer more. He just kept looking at the sky like it held an answer. Later, when we unzipped the tent and crawled inside, he realized he had forgotten his sleeping bag. "You've got to be kidding me," he groaned, patting the empty nylon beneath him. I held up mine. "You can take this. I'll sleep in the hoodie." "No way," he said, already unrolling it. "We'll share. You're tiny. I'll take up all the space." I tried to laugh, but my throat tightened. We arranged ourselves awkwardly, facing opposite directions at first, but the space was tight. I could feel the heat of his back against mine, the occasional brush of his knee. My body refused to relax. Every nerve was awake. "Comfortable?" he asked, voice low. "Sure," I lied. A moment passed. Then he shifted, rolling onto his side. His hand brushed my arm, light, brief, almost nothing. But I felt it like a jolt. Neither of us said anything. Eventually, I heard his breathing even out. He'd fallen asleep. I stayed awake, staring into the dark fabric of the tent wall, thinking about everything I wasn't allowed to say. He was my neighbor, my friend, straight, and I was already in trouble. The morning after our camping trip, I woke up wrapped in warmth that wasn't mine. His arm was draped across my waist. Not heavy, just there. His breath was steady against the back of my neck. At some point during the night, we must have shifted. Or maybe I had, without realizing it. Maybe I wanted to be this close, even in sleep. I didn't move. I just let the moment stay a little longer than it should have. Eventually, he stirred, muttered something sleepy, and pulled back without a word. No awkward laugh, no joke to cut the tension. Just a yawn, a stretch, and, damn, that was the best sleep I've had in weeks. I smiled, pretending I hadn't noticed a thing. We packed up that morning, quiet in the easy kind of way that only happens between people who've shared something, though we didn't name it. We never did. The weeks after were strange. Not bad, just different. He texted me more. Not about anything important. Memes, dumb photos, random late-night questions like, "Do you think dogs know their dogs?" I answered every time, even when I didn't know why he was reaching out. Then one Friday evening, my hot water went out. It wasn't the first time. Our building was old and stubborn. But this time, the landlord said the repair would take until Monday. I was already halfway through a workout, sweaty, frustrated, and not in the mood for a cold rinse. That's when the knock came. He stood there, holding a wrench and wearing a hoodie with grease stains on the sleeve. "Trying to fix mine," he said, then looked past me. "You good?" I explained. "Cold water, broken heater, weekend wait." He tilted his head. "Just use mine." I blinked. "Your shower?" He nodded. "You've got your own towel, right? I'll throw you a fresh shirt if you need one. Don't sweat it." I hesitated, and he caught it. "What? You think I'm gonna walk in on you naked?" he teased, grinning like it was the most ridiculous idea in the world. I laughed, a bit too loud. "No, of course not." "Cool. He tossed me the spare key. Just don't sing in there. I can't handle another emotional ballad. So I went. His apartment smelled like him. Clean laundry and something warmer, muskier. I tried not to overthink it as I stripped down and stepped into the shower. Hot water poured over me, easing tension I didn't know I carried. My eyes closed. My thoughts drifted. His towel was soft against my skin. The borrowed shirt he left on the door, gray, oversized, worn in, smelled faintly of him. I should have left right after. But I didn't. I wandered into his kitchen, barefoot, damp hair dripping. He was on the couch, one leg propped up, watching a game. He looked up and froze. His eyes trailed the shirt I wore, his shirt, and something flickered there.
Surprise.
Amusement. Something else I couldn't name. You clean up nice, he said, smirking. I rolled my eyes, but my cheeks flushed. Thanks for the shower. He patted the couch. Stick around. I've got beer and nothing better to do. So I sat beside him. Too close. Always too close. The game played in the background, but I wasn't watching. Not really. I was watching the way his fingers drummed against his thigh. The way his foot brushed mine and didn't move. The way his gaze lingered on me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. I told myself to stop reading into it, to stop hoping, wanting. But then he said, casually, "You know you're the only person I hang out with sober, right?" I turned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know." He shrugged. "You're just easy to be around." My heart twisted. I wanted to ask what he meant by easy. I wanted to ask if that meant anything more. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "You're not too bad yourself." He looked at me then, really looked. His eyes flicked to my mouth for half a second before shifting back to the screen. Nothing happened. And yet something did. Later that night, as I stood to leave, he reached out and tugged gently at the hem of the shirt I wore. "Keep it," he said, not meeting my eyes. I swallowed. "You sure?" "Yeah. Looks better on you." I nodded and walked out before I could say something stupid. The next day, everything changed. We were supposed to meet at the hardware store, new project, something about fixing the shared fence. I arrived late. He was already waiting, leaning against his truck, arms crossed, jaw tight. Something was off. "You good?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, finally, "You left fast last night." My stomach dropped. Didn't want to overstay. He gave me a look I couldn't read. "You didn't." We drove in silence. The fence project took us to the edge of the neighborhood, where trees lined the yards and most houses were still under renovation. No one was around. Just us, a pile of wooden panels, and a too small toolbox. It wasn't going well. He knelt to adjust one of the posts, and I moved to help, crouching beside him. Our shoulders touched. His arm brushed mine. He didn't move away. Neither did I. Then he shifted his weight, and we both lost balance, toppling sideways into the dirt, laughing. I landed half on him, half off. His hands were on my sides, holding me steady. We stopped laughing. Our eyes met. My breath caught. His thumb brushed my waist. I didn't move. Neither did he. Then someone's voice, distant, a neighbor maybe, called out, snapping the moment in two. I scrambled to my feet. He stayed down a second longer, staring at the sky. For the rest of the day, we barely spoke. But every now and then, he'd look at me, like he was trying to figure something out, like he wasn't sure what he wanted to say. And I was terrified that if I asked, I'd hear something I couldn't unhear. So I kept pretending this wasn't everything I wanted, that his casual touches didn't linger too long, that his compliments didn't hit too deep. But that night, lying in bed, wearing his shirt, I finally admitted something to myself. If this wasn't a game, I was already losing. It had been 3 days since the fence project. 3 days since I felt his hands on my waist. Since that fall that wasn't really a fall. More like a moment suspended between something innocent and something that couldn't be taken back. 3 days and he hadn't knocked. No texts. No wanahang. No excuses to borrow my drill or ask if I had mustard. I told myself not to care. I told myself to leave it alone. But the silence stretched long and tight, wrapping around my chest like wire. I kept looking out the window at his porch light. I kept checking my phone like a teenager. I was halfway through folding laundry when the knock finally came. 2 short raps. Hesitant. I opened the door and there he was. Hoodie, ball cap, tired eyes. "Hey," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "You busy?" I shook my head. "No. Can we talk?" I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like the air inside my place felt heavier than outside. He didn't sit, just stood in the center of the room, eyes scanning the furniture like he was memorizing it. Finally, he looked at me. "I've been weird." I tried to smile. "You've always been weird." That got a soft laugh. But it didn't stay. He took a breath. "That day at the fence. That wasn't... I didn't mean for that to get weird. If it got weird." "It didn't." I lied. He looked down, hands in his pockets. "You sure?" I hesitated. "No." He nodded like he expected that. "I've been thinking about it," he said quietly. "About a lot of things. About you." My heart thudded once, then froze. He looked up, eyes searching mine. "And I don't know what that says about me." There was a pause. A deep, impossible pause. So I said it, soft but clear. "I like you." He blinked. I could have stopped there. But something cracked open inside me. Something that had been bracing too long. "I like the way you talk when you're tired. I like the way you lean back when you laugh. I like that you remember the things I say even when I don't think you're listening. I like the way you look at me when you don't realize you're doing it." I stepped closer. "I've liked you for a while now, and I've been trying not to. I really have." He didn't move. "And I know you're not. You're not like me. And I'm not asking you to be." He swallowed hard. "What if I don't know what I am?" I stared at him. "I've always just gone with the flow, you know? Girls, hookups, whatever. But with you..." His voice cracked slightly. "It's different." I nodded, slowly. "Yeah, it is." He took off his cap and tossed it on the table. Ran both hands through his hair. "This is scary." "I know. I don't want to ruin what we have." I stepped even closer. "Me neither. But pretending it's not there isn't working either." He looked at me like I was a question he was trying to answer without words. "I don't know what comes next," he said, barely above a whisper. "Neither do I." He stared down at my shirt. His shirt, the one I hadn't returned. "You still have that," he murmured. "It smells like you." He looked up sharply. Then, like something finally gave way, he took a small, unsure step toward me. "Can I?" He trailed off. His hand hovered near my arm, not quite touching. I nodded. "Yeah." His fingers brushed my elbow, then slid down to my wrist. A small touch, but my whole body felt it. Electricity, nerves, relief, fear, everything. We stood like that for a second, maybe an hour, maybe the rest of our lives. Then he stepped in. 1 more inch, just enough. And he kissed me. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even smooth. Our noses bumped. Our breath caught. But it was real. His hand came up to my jaw, tentative at first, then surer, like he realized I wasn't going to pull away. I couldn't. When we parted, our foreheads touched. We both exhaled at the same time. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay what?" "I think I've wanted to do that for longer than I want to admit." I smiled. "You just did." He let out a breathy laugh. "I'm gonna mess this up." I shook my head. "We both will. That's kind of the point." His hands found mine, fingers lacing slowly. He looked down at them like he was seeing something completely unfamiliar but somehow already his. "I don't know how to explain this to anyone," he said. "Hell, I don't even know how to explain it to myself." "You don't have to," I said. "Not tonight." He nodded. We sat on the couch. Too close to be friends, finally. The TV played something we weren't watching. His shoulder rested lightly against mine. Every so often, I'd feel his fingers brush mine again, like he was checking if I was still real. Later, he leaned in, quietly, and said, "This doesn't feel wrong." I turned to him. "It's not." He smiled. Not the big goofy grin he gave the world. Something smaller, softer, just for me. I don't know what this means, he said, but I want to figure it out. And for the first time since I met him, I didn't feel like I had to hide anything. Not my heart, not my fear, not the hope I'd buried under months of silence. I leaned my head against his shoulder and let out the breath I didn't know I'd been holding. We sat like that for a long time. Quiet, close, no more pretending, no more distance. Just the beginning of something neither of us had expected, but something we were both finally ready to name. I woke up with my head on his shoulder. We had fallen asleep on the couch. Clothes rumpled, TV still playing some late-night movie neither of us remembered turning on. His arm was around me, loose but sure, like his body hadn't yet gotten the memo that things were different now. Or maybe it had, and it just didn't mind. I didn't move. I didn't want to. His chest rose slowly beneath me, calm and steady, and for once my mind was quiet. No spiraling thoughts, no second-guessing. Just warmth, the smell of his hoodie, and the weight of something finally shared between us. Eventually, he stirred. "You drooled on my shirt," he mumbled, voice gravelly from sleep. I sat up quickly. "Did not." He gave me a look. "You 100% did." I wiped at my mouth, flustered. "Well, maybe your shoulder's just that comfortable." He smirked, stretching. "Yeah, I've been told I make a decent pillow." We both chuckled, but something had shifted. It wasn't just the teasing. It was the way his eyes softened when they met mine. The way he didn't pull back when our knees touched again. Like the barriers that used to be there had quietly dissolved overnight. "So," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "last night wasn't a dream, right?" I shook my head. "Nope, pretty sure I kissed you. Or you kissed me." "Mutual kissing," he said. "Equal responsibility. Legally binding," I added with a smile. He laughed, then grew quiet. His fingers picked at a loose thread in the couch cushion. "I've been thinking about what you said, about how long you felt this." My throat tightened slightly. "Yeah. I don't know how I didn't see it. I tried to hide it." "You're terrible at hiding things." I looked at him a little startled. He shrugged. "I noticed. I just didn't want to admit what it meant. Not until it got too hard to ignore." "Was it scary?" He nodded. "Still is." I nodded, too. "For me, it's always been a little scary." He reached out, slowly, and hooked his pinky with mine. That simple, stupid gesture made my chest tighten. "But I want to try," he said. "With you, whatever this is. I don't know the rules, I don't have a label, and I'm gonna mess up a lot." "Same here," I whispered. But last night felt real, like I wasn't pretending for once. "Yeah," I said. "That's how you know it's worth it." He leaned back, letting our hands rest between us, fingers still linked. "People might say stuff," he murmured. "Neighbors, friends, maybe even family." I nodded. "They might. You okay with that?" I looked at him fully. I've lived a lot of my life trying to be quiet, to stay unnoticed. But I'm tired of being scared of being seen. Especially if it means hiding you. He smiled. Not his usual grin, something softer, more private. "Besides," I added, "you're not exactly subtle. You're gonna blow our cover in like a week." "I give it 3 days," he said, grinning again. We both laughed, and it felt good. Like, free. Later, we went for a walk. Nothing planned. Just quiet steps down the block as the afternoon sun filtered through the trees. He kept bumping into my shoulder, not quite holding my hand, but always close enough to feel. At the corner, we passed an older couple tending their garden. The woman smiled at us. I caught her watching how we moved together, the little glances, the easiness. He winked. He noticed. "Think she figured us out? Only if she's ever been in love." He paused. "Is that what this is?" I turned to him, heart full. "It's the start of something. And that's enough." He nodded, pulling me gently by the sleeve until our shoulders brushed again. That night, we didn't kiss again. We didn't need to. We shared takeout on the floor, argued about which movie to watch, and when I reached for the last fry, he let me have it. that, more than anything, told me what I needed to know. He was mine now, in the slow, tentative, learning kind of way. And I was his. Not in the way I used to imagine. In the way that was finally beautifully real. He knocked on my door differently that morning. Not like the careless thumps he used to do with a tool in one hand and a joke in the other. Not like the awkward hesitation from the night he first confessed. This time it was steady, certain. I opened the door, and there he was. Fresh out of a shower, hair still damp, wearing the same hoodie he always stole from me now. He held up 2 coffee cups, one already missing a sip. Brought peace offerings, he said. And possibly the worst breakfast sandwich ever made by man. Is it the gas station one again? Extra rubbery eggs. Just how you like it. I let him in. He set the coffees on the table and looked around my living room like it was new to him, even though he'd been in it 100 times before. There was something about the way he moved now, comfortable but careful. Like he knew the space meant something different now. Like we did. He sat on the couch, then reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A key. He held it out to me. I stared at it. What's this? He scratched his jaw, suddenly sheepish. My spare. Figured you shouldn't have to wait for me to invite you over anymore. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The smile that crept across my face said enough. He added quickly, not saying you have to come over all the time. Just like, if you want to, or if your water heater dies again, or if you miss my face. I took the key, turned it over in my palm. You sure about this? I'm not sure about a lot of things, he said. But I'm sure I don't want to do this halfway. I sat beside him. Close. Our shoulders touched like it was the most natural thing in the world now. He leaned in, bumping my knee gently. Besides, I kind of like waking up knowing you're just one wall away. I rested my head against his shoulder. You're such a softy now. Don't tell the guys at work, he said. I have a reputation to destroy. We sat there for a moment in the kind of silence that feels like music, no awkwardness, no rush. Just shared breath and warmth. Then he nodded toward my window. We should fix up that little garden patch outside, he said. Plant something. I looked at him. You want a garden? Not really, he smirked. But I think it'd be cool to build something together. Watch it grow. I didn't miss the metaphor. Neither did he. I'd like that, I said. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. Casual, easy, like it had always been that way. Later that day, we walked to the hardware store. Not because we needed anything urgent, but because walking together side by side meant something now. Our hands brushed a few times. He didn't pull away. Eventually, he just reached over and took mine. No grand gesture. Just fingers lacing together in the middle of a dusty sidewalk. We passed the old man with the boxer dog, and the woman who ran the daycare. People looked, but no one stared. And even if they had, it wouldn't have mattered. By the time we made it home, the sun was starting to dip. He threw his hoodie on my chair, stretched like a cat, then collapsed into my bed without asking. You know you have your own apartment, right? I said. He grinned. Yeah, but your sheets are softer. Liar. He tugged me down beside him, wrapping an arm around my waist. Okay. Maybe I just like falling asleep next to you. I let myself relax into him, felt his breath on the back of my neck. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to protect my heart. I didn't feel like I had to wait. This wasn't the story I thought I'd have. Not the love I expected. But it was mine. And his. And whatever came next. Awkward conversations, figuring things out, maybe even planting something outside that didn't die. We'd face it together. Because sometimes the best things don't announce themselves. They walk in while you're not ready. They knock when you least expect them to. And then they stay.